Please welcome up our guest, co-founder of Fundraising. So a lot of what tonight's about is just sharing your experiences and about the company and talking about things that are meaningful and helpful to everybody here.
Good.
Great.
Fun.
So why don't we do this? Let's start off with a quick little bit about what One Kings Lane is today.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask you some questions about how you got there, and we'll get back to talking more about the company.
Sure. So for those of you that don't know, we have a mixed crowd, so I'm guessing most of the women know what One Kings Lane is. I don't know about the men, but it's an online destination for everything and anything for the home. We started off 5 years ago really using the flash sale model. We don't use the F word anymore, so we feel like we've evolved way beyond that. We've continued to innovate and add lots of new components to the business. We still do work on a time base, so the sales that we run every day last for 3 days, but every day is a new day at One Kings Lane. So Jason and I were talking about this before. We literally change our store every single day, 365 days a year. And I think that's what makes One Kings Lane a pretty special place. You can go there and find very unique product, a real array of things from new product to vintage to products from designers. I travel around the world now, bringing back one-of-a-kind products. So when you go there, you just never know what you're going to find every day, and that's part of the discovery. And I think what makes it fun to go to One Kings Lane.
So let's get a quick snapshot, a little bit about the company. How many employees total right now?
We have 500 employees now.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
that's a lot of people.
And a couple $100 million in venture capital raised.
We've raised a fair amount of money. Yeah, we don't talk about it, but yes, we have.
And it's been since 2008 that you started the business.
We formed the company in November of 2008 and got to market very quickly. We were given very good advice to move very fast, and that first to market usually does pretty well. So we literally, from mid-November of 2008, we launched the business the very end of March 2009. So we just celebrated our 5th anniversary. So we moved fast.
So talk about that ideation process. How did One Kings Lane come to be?
Yeah. So I spent most of my adult life living in Manhattan. I realized after starting One Kings Lane that I'd actually lived in an apartment most of my adult life, actually since I left my parents' home to go to college. I always lived in an apartment, and about 9 years ago my husband had an opportunity and we moved to Los Angeles and we bought a house, and all of a sudden my life started to become very different. I could entertain differently, I had a house to decorate, and I always liked nice things for the home, but I literally became obsessed with my house and everything about it. And in Los Angeles,
what did you become most obsessed with?
Just everything. I was decorating, entertaining. There were so many options of things that I could do here in Los Angeles in my house that I couldn't do in my apartment. And I loved my apartment in Manhattan.
By the way, big after party at her place.
Yeah. Woohoo! Parking is not good where I live, though. That's the only problem. We have to Uber over there. But anyway, so imagine 5 years ago, it's kind of crazy to even think about it, but shopping in Los Angeles for your home, brick and mortar was fantastic. Walk down La Cienega, Melrose, the PDC. There's beautiful stores with lots of unique product. But online 5 years ago, there was nothing. Literally nothing if you wanted to, shop for your home, except for the usual suspects. The big brick and mortar guys were there. Williams-Sonoma, Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn. And it just seemed like there was this huge white space out there for somebody to do something that was different and interesting in the home space. And right at that same time, the flash sale model appeared in the apparel scene, and that was the industry that I worked most of my adult life in. And I was working for a t-shirt manufacturer, and it was in October of 2007, and it was probably a little bit later than that actually. And we did a sale with one of the other flash sale sites. It sold like 1,600 t-shirts in 24 hours. I'm like, there's something to this model. I like this. And it also was a brand new channel of distribution. I'd been in the apparel business for a number of years, and literally out of thin air, this new channel of distribution appeared, and I was fascinated by it. I became like a student of flash sales, and the only thing that was being sold was apparel at the time. So I was like, I think there's like this opportunity here.
What was it about that what was it about that flash sale trend that you think became so popular so quickly?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that shopped like a sample sale, if you've got a sample sale, it's the excitement of, getting there and getting something that you can get at a great price and you might not have access to. So I think it was all about access and, value at the time, And there's just some sort of gaming factor that was going on also, right? So you could only get there at a certain time when things went on sale, and they were only there for a limited amount of time. So it was very exciting, and it felt like there was this great opportunity in the home space, and so I played around with this idea for over 6 months, and I kept, I'd had many.
This was the first business you had started.
Yeah, I feel like I worked in entrepreneurial environments, but it was the first business I started. I always had lots of ideas. I have always had coming up with ideas, but 2 weeks, a month into it, I always talked myself out of it. This one, I could not come up with a reason why I shouldn't be doing it. But the thing that was kind of interesting at this time also is that, I don't know if anyone remembers what the world was like in 2008, but it was pretty much imploding. And so it was an interesting time to think about starting a new business. I mean, first of all, there wasn't even a chance of raising any capital. I mean, the VCs were like hiding under their desks. They were like, so if we were going to do this, it was going to be, we would have to bootstrap the business. And so I felt that I would be most comfortable if I could find a partner to do this with. So I was actually introduced to my business partner, Allie Pincus, by a woman, Lisa Stone, who started blogher.com, if anyone knows that. She had met my husband at a conference and said, "Oh, I'd love to talk to your wife about this idea she had." And then she asked me, was I looking for a partner? And I said yes. She literally, on October 2nd, 2008, sent an email introducing Allie to me. And that was it. The only problem was Allie lived in San Francisco and I lived in Los Angeles, so we had to kind of get past that before we figured out what we were doing.
So let's talk about the journey up to there, because I think for such a well-known company that has a lot of roots in Silicon Valley, the two of you break a lot of molds.
Yeah, I'm not a normal-looking entrepreneur, no.
No, but if you take a look at, the Silicon Valley show on HBO, the two of you don't fit the mold of that.
We have hoodies. We wear hoodies. We have a One Kings Lane hoodie. Yeah, we have hoodies. We do have hoodies.
And it retails for $1,700.
No, it doesn't.
A gold sequence.
It's part of our swag.
All right, so let's talk about the path up. Where are you from originally?
Oh, that's a whole nother story. We could be here for an hour. So I'm a retail brat. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I moved 8 times before I graduated high school. So I lived literally in the South, the Midwest, the East. My family finally moved to Northern California my senior year in high school.
And your dad was in retail, right?
My dad was a retailer.
What did he do?
Well, that's another whole story. But he started in the Macy's training program in New York and did a lot of different things with different department stores in between. He ended up at Macy's in Northern California, and he was in charge of the stores there. And when he retired at 65, he really wasn't ready to retire, so he took his knowledge of the stores and went into commercial real estate. Mm-hmm. And then really the best part of the story about my dad is that at 80 he got his MFA and started painting. Wow. So he was quite an inspiration.
A family of just, second act late bloomers.
Yeah, very much so. Like 3 times, my dad reinvented himself. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And so you went to college out here.
I went to Stanford.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then what was the very first thing you did out of undergrad?
I went into retail.
You did. So what was
it's in my blood. Well, I went into a training program for, at the time it was Federated Department Stores. It was a department store here in Los Angeles, which, like every other department store, is now Macy's, because they all got morphed up into Macy's. But I went into a training program. I was there for 4 years. I was a buyer. And then I decided that all I knew was retail, and maybe I would really be good at being an investment banker, but I would never know that. So I went back to UCLA and got my MBA.
Oh, and then post-MBA, where did you take your career?
Well, so then I really trying to get out of retail, but I ended up back
in... Did you have the entrepreneurial itch at this time? Did you, as you were starting your professional career, did you think to yourself, well, at some point I know I want to be running my own business?
I don't think I thought that way, but when I do say I feel like I worked in entrepreneurial environments, I definitely, at the time anyway, retail was very much that way. So when I was first a buyer, I was overseeing an area that was swimwear and activewear. It's kind of funny. Activewear was new. Nobody even, did that. But I was able to go out and develop product and create things and build a business based on, what I thought would work. And so even though I was working in a big company, I was...
When you say develop it, did you do the merchandising?
Yeah, so I would go find a manufacturer that, could make what I thought would be...
And then you had to get the large retail stores to carry the items?
No, we were the store. So I was the buyer for the department store. So
you had to have that tastemaker quality of knowing what would sell.
Yeah, exactly.
What was your biggest flub? Did you,
Flop?
Did
you don't want to know my biggest hit?
No, we'll get to the biggest hit. But honestly, we learn a lot more from the mistakes from the winners. So.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I was actually promoted to buyer pretty quickly, and 1 month into the job, they put me on a plane to go to Paris to the fashion shows, and then go to Israel to Tel Aviv to do a big swimmer buy from Gotex, which is at the time was like the designer swimwear line. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I was literally by myself in Tel Aviv at this factory trying to write an order. And of course, I bought way too much. And then, of course I did, And it was a really good lesson of a lot of different things. I mean, one in particular is that, when you're overseas and you get kind of caught up in the moment, you have a tendency to overbuy. And so I've sort of learned very quickly that whatever you think you want to buy when you get back, you should pretty much just cut it in half. And it worked after that. But yeah, that was definitely my biggest flop.
So what was your biggest hit? What were about some of the items that you brought in that just...
So probably at that time my biggest hit was literally there were no what was called fashion sweats, and I went out and got a guy to garment dye sweatshirts. So they came in all different colors. I mean, the only color sweatshirt you could buy at the time was gray, and that was a huge
so
hit.
We actually have the person with us today that can take credit for the hoodie.
That's right.
That's a pretty big deal.
I don't like to talk about it, but it's true.
If anything in Silicon Valley can give you street cred, it's the fact that you really made the hoodie popular.
It is true.
That's all you need. That alone, you can get hundreds of millions of dollars.
Exactly.
All right, and so you're progressing in your career.
Right.
Talk about some of the the biggest things that you learned and the most important lessons that you took along the path that helped you once you went to start your business.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, so just to be clear, so when I got out of business school, I did go to New York and tried to get out of retailing, but I ended up at Macy's in New York for a year. It just kept pulling me back in. But what I did was I actually was only there a year, and I went to what they call the other side. So I became...
By the way, would your dad try to give you advice? I feel like, with the kind of ethnic parents we have, who's in the same industry,
well,
would he try to coach you as your professional career?
It was a tough conversation coming out of business school to tell him that I decided not to go work at General Foods and that I was going to go work at Macy's again. I thought they were going to kill me, but I couldn't help myself. But I went to work on the other side. So I worked as with the manufacturers for basically the rest of my career, selling to stores. And I think, doing that was interesting. I mean, I think I learned sort of the value of following through, having conversations with people. It drives me crazy today. Everything's email, nobody picks up the phone or has a conversation with people. There's a lot of value to that. But just really, I think setting goals and how you move towards that, and that you have to continue to reprioritize along the way. You need to be flexible. I think a lot of those things definitely paid off as we were, starting our business. And the other part of it is that I was fortunate enough during my career to get involved. I didn't work for Ralph Lauren, but I was involved in helping them launch some of their license lines like swimwear and sleepwear and their jeans, their denim line. And that was just an incredible experience in branding. That was like getting an MBA in branding, and that paid off major, when starting our company and when we thought about creating our own brand.
I read a quote that you had talking about in working with Ralph Lauren. You had to learn the discipline of saying no to things in the short term would make money.
Yep.
Protect the long-term brand image. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was true. It was like an amazing experience. We were doing swimwear for them, and we had the woman who signs off on everything, and they're kind of controlling. So nothing goes to market without the proper sign off, but there was a situation and we actually had to go to market, but she was going to come in afterwards to, sign off on everything. Her people came in and supposedly signed off. And so of course the number one suit that we had in market that we were selling thousands of units, she's like, no, can't do it. We're like, what are you talking about? And like literally for a week we tried to negotiate with them to let us make this suit and sell it, and she said, I'm sorry, like you need to appreciate that, I'm protecting my brand, and the suit is not representative of that. And so we couldn't make it. It was like just the end of it. And I think when we started One Kings Lane, that lesson stayed with me for so long, but we, having real clarity about what we were doing, who we wanted to speak to, what our brand was, made it very easy to, as we moved through making, I'm sure like everybody who has their own business have to make a million decisions all the time. It made it so easy as we were moving through to say, yes, that's on brand, no, that's not on brand, and we're not going to do it. And we've had situations where product comes to us and we think, maybe we could do that, and then we sort of slap ourselves and we're like, nope, we're not doing it.
What's an example of one of those products that could make you money but that you turned down because of
and it was prestigious, fur throws, real fur throws, and that was, we knew that there was be part of our customer base that would love that. They're sold at Bergdorf Goodman. It's fancy schmancy. But it just wasn't worth it at the end of the day for the disruption that it would cause to sell a couple of fur throws.
Yeah. So talk about how do you today describe that brand and that customer and the focus of who you're going after?
She's quite the enthusiast. She's a she. So we just gave up,
Do you know
pretty early.
what percentage of your customers?
Yeah.
Do you know what percentage of your customers are male versus female?
Yeah. Well, it had been 95% female. I just saw a new number that it's actually 90%. So I was kind of encouraged that there's more guys coming to the party. But we
should just do One Kings Lane live events and just have a side business of dating and invite men just to come and meet all the women.
Well, it was really funny. At one point, we were trying to do food and wine, and the company that we were trying to do wine with, the CEO, we were laughing because I'm like, well, who's your demographic? He goes, well, it's like a male, 35 to 45, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God, we should just start a dating site. We can match our people together. Forget about selling the wine, But she's 35 to 55, although we really do get her younger, and I say to whatever, but that's really the core customer. She's incredibly passionate, enthusiastic about her home and entertaining. If there's somebody that likes their home and likes it to be orderly but is not passionate about what it looks like and that it's this expression of who she is, she's probably not so into us. She might show up if she needs something, but she's not obsessed. She lives in pretty much major metropolitan cities and the surrounding areas. She's well educated. She's quite wealthy, almost $150,000 average income. And she likes to shop. So she comes back a lot. We have 80% of our sales every month come from repeat customers. So,
wow, 80% of sales come from repeat customers.
Yeah. So she likes what we're doing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So let's talk about the relationship for a second with your co-founder, right? An equally well-known person in her own right, and certainly in Silicon Valley. How have the two of you made that relationship work, given the fact that you don't work in the same city,
right?
And that
that probably helps. Have you ever been in a long distance relationship? It's good.
Yeah, there was actually a really interesting quote. So in Ben Horowitz's new book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, he wrote about one of the first exchanges he had with Mark Andreessen. Where basically Mark Andreessen wrote him this email saying, "Go fuck yourself," and was really pissed at him. And he said, years later, the reason we work as partners is because some partnerships either don't push each other, and so they fizzle out, or they're too contentious. And the right balance is
balance. That's right. Balance is definitely.
And he talks about that still every week he fights with Mark.
Yeah.
So what's your guys' working relationship like?
So I will say I've had two amazing blind dates in my life. One is my husband, and the other one is Allie Pincus. So I feel very fortunate. And once we did finally meet, we went back and forth on email when that first introduction was made. And I was like, okay, so here's the deal. If you're really interested in doing this, you need to come to Los Angeles so that we can actually meet in person. So she's like, I'm coming. And I'm like, great. I had to go to like Google to see what she looked like because I drove to Burbank Airport to pick her up. And we had very good chemistry, and we started sharing a lot of ideas, and we made a decision pretty quickly. I mean, it was really a leap of faith, that we were going to do this together. And we made a decision to bootstrap the business. We agreed upon a set amount that we both were going to invest in the business. And that when we first started the business, which you can talk about later, but we outsourced everything.
How long did the two of you have that courtship before you kind of formalized the fact that you were going to jump into this together, especially
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, it was definitely fast.
And you weren't even in the same city that time, and
I don't know. I think something happened where maybe for me and Allie was like very much willing to do it. It's like I really decided that I really wanted to do this. I was a little nervous about doing this given the economic times and stuff. And my husband was great, actually, because he's like, just go do it. Like, if you don't do it, you're never going to find out if it's what, because you just keep talking about it. You're driving me crazy.
How much did you originally capitalize the business with together?
Not very much.
Not very much?
Yeah,
okay.
Not very much. Under $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And then how long was it until you raised the first round of money?
9 months. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you were getting sales.
Oh yeah, we were doing, but wait, I want to go back to the partnership thing, so that's good. So, so Allie and I are like bookends. I mean, in so many ways, and I think that this is a little bit of the balance that you're probably talking about. So, it was really like it was so great in so many ways. I mean, first of all, we're the bookends to our customers, so we brought very different points of view to the table on that. We have very different personalities. Our skill sets actually really complemented each other, which made it so great when first starting a business, because it was like, it's like whoever is there just does it. You don't say, well, I'm sorry, that isn't part of my job description. You just do it.
What were her skill sets versus yours?
So mine was all about merchandising, and I had, run some organizations. So that was what I had been doing, is running sales organizations. So I came with some skill set around, building an organization and, those type of things. Allie had more of the PR, marketing, the digital knowledge that I didn't have. So if like copy had to be done, she could do that. If something had to do about merchandising, the way the site looked, I would do that. And in the beginning, though, anything creative, we did that jointly. And that's where we'd have these interesting conversations that you're talking about. But that's what makes better decisions, I think, at the end of the day, is getting that creative tension going. As long as you can be honest and transparent at the end of the day and, express how you feel, you sort of make a good decision and you just move on, and it's all good. So, and I think we were able to do that, actually pretty well. And maybe part of it wasn't, I really thought about that we were literally on the phone every day for like at least 8 hours. Like I would get up in the morning very early. I don't sleep very much. Do a little email, workout, get on the computer from like 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock with a headset on. Like we weren't even using like, video chat or anything like that. It was all through the phone. But we, we made it work. And then we'd meet halfway. The place where we actually launched our website was, this is very weird, but in San Luis Obispo, which was halfway between LA and San Francisco. So we'd meet there. So that worked out pretty well. We just were able to, we just didn't trip over each other in any which way as regarding our skill set, so it made it sort of easy.
And I read that when you launched, you launched with exactly 5,000 members, you got featured on Daily Candy, and within 24 hours, you got another 25,000.
Yeah.
What were those very first products that you were selling?
We sold bedding from a company called Serena and Lily. We had cashmere throws that are beautiful from Italy. We did candles.
And so for that early set of products, was the value proposition more that these were really unique quality products you couldn't find, or were you doing deep discounts or some of both?
I think it was both. There's value. We still have value today, but I talk about value in a lot of different ways. And part of the value I think we brought from the very beginning is that we went out, we found cool brands, we'd work with them, we'd present it in a really nice way, we'd edit it, curate it. I mean, curated is sort of an overused word today, but 5 years ago, nobody was curating anything. There was like Amazon and nothing else, you know. So what we did was, like, I feel we brought value not only in price, but in the way we made it easy for you to shop. You show up, you could see it really easy, you could be in and out. You know, if you saw something, you bought it, and that was it. So.
And the model started and has still historically primarily been that everything was on consignment. So you never bought the inventory.
No.
You would go out and source these deals.
Right.
Right. There's seemingly some risk in that, right? That you have to make sure you work with good suppliers, right? That they have to have enough inventory, they have to deliver it on time. How did you get around the fact that you for many years now sell products that you never touch or see or own, and all the problems that come with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing about the recession is, like, you know, in tough times there's often good business opportunities, which this clearly was. And part of the reason this was is because the manufacturers had inventory piling up like they had never seen before. So even though they were very much not into the internet, most of them didn't have their own websites, they were open to working with us. And so they had plenty of inventory, and we did a really good job picking from it. Again, if we felt like something wasn't on brand, we'd tell them that we weren't going to sell it because we didn't want to put it out there. Because what we were able to do very quickly is, it's a funny thing in the home industry, but it's very fragmented, and there are not very many well-known brands. And so that actually played to our advantage. So we very quickly, because of our merchandising and curation and editing, were able to become really the brand very quickly. So people started coming to One Kings Lane to see what were we bringing to the site every day. What did we find? What did we think was interesting? What do we think they should have in their homes?
How did can you talk about how you got those first set of customers? I mean, obviously, Ali, you talked about marketing and PR.
Yeah.
Was it mostly PR? I mean, how did the first 100,000, 10,000 people find out about the site?
So the first 5,000 that you talked about, this is kind of a funny story. We're like, okay, we're going to go build this website, and on whatever day it is, we're going to send an email out to everybody, but we need to find people to send an email out to on the first day. But that's going to be kind of hard to do because we need people to sign up and give us their email address. And like, why are they going to sign up to a splash page? They're like, there's nothing there. They're not going to know what it is. So we're like, okay, how are we going to do this? So what we did was, between the two of us, we came up with a list of what we called ambassadors. There's 100 people across the country, friends, colleagues, people that we just thought were connected. We put basically an invitation together for them, and we said, listen, if you would send this to 100 people that you think would send this to another 100 people, we'll give you $250 credit on the site when we first launched. So that got us going, and then it started. People started inviting other people, and our goal was 5,000, that's the crazy part of the story. But what we also did is we had a thing going that if you signed up and registered and gave us your email prior to launch, you were automatically entered to win an Hermes throw. So we figured for our customer, this would be like a very interesting proposition.
What's an Hermes throw?
An Hermes, Hermes is like a very, it's a luxury brand, and
it's like a blanket. Right?
A blanket, yeah. But like an expensive blanket. Like, I mean, this was painful when you're counting every penny. It cost $1,200, this blanket. I had to go in there and like buy this damn blanket and send it to somebody, because that's how we got our 5,000 people to sign up. But the day
did you remember who got the blanket?
Well, this is another funny story. So we're in a showroom like a month later, and our first employee, who's now head of all of our merchandising, I'm sitting in a back room, because in the beginning they used to put us in the back. They didn't want anybody to know that we were there, because we were going to be discounting their product. She goes, this is the craziest thing. You've got to come out here. And I'm like, what? She goes, the woman that won the Hermes throw, she's out in the showroom.
No, wow.
So it turned out it was a freelance writer who was working for like Travel and Leisure or something like that, and she happened to be in the showroom. And we bump into her now all the time. It's like, she's like, hey, how are you? Loving my throw. I'm like, it's like, glad you got it. But the morning that we launched, we had, I got a call from the head engineer. That's another story. And he's like, Susan, this is really crazy. Oh, this is really crazy. And I'm like, what? He goes, okay, you have exactly 5,000 people signed up right now. It was like 7:55, and the email was supposed to go out at 8 o'clock. And I'm like, hit that send button right now, like, because I felt like it was a sign or something, like it was going to be a good thing. And he sent the email out, and the first day we sold $1,329, so we were psyched. We did business.
That's huge.
It's like people bought things. Of course, I think one of the orders was from one of the founders of Guild, but that was okay. We were like, because at that point we were tracking every order, every customer. We could see it. And the second day, as you mentioned, we had made this deal with Daily Candy, may they rest in peace, that they would do. We gave them an exclusive on One Kings Lane, and they did a story about us. And with that story, we got another 25,000 people signed up that day, and we did something like $32,000 the second day. And we're like, all right, this is the stairway to heaven. We're in good shape, And it really was, honestly, at that point, it was very much word of mouth, viral. We spent very little money on marketing. We got as much PR as we could. We worked that very hard. I mean, by May, we were featured in the New York Times home section. So, we worked it wherever we possibly could, but we spent very little money at the time on internet marketing. As a matter of fact, I didn't even understand what internet marketing was. And Allie came to me and she's like, I need money to do some internet marketing. We need to start buying AdWords. And I'm like, how much money are you talking about? She goes, I need $5,000 a month. I'm like, $5,000 a month? Are you kidding me? And she's like, no, we need to start doing this. Well, we probably spend $5,000 in a minute now on internet marketing, but no, not really. But I mean, it was, we did a little bit of that, but it was really much more of a viral kind of, it was, somebody signed up and they loved the site and they told their friends. And we also had a referral program, and I think that helped a lot in the beginning because it was pretty easy. You'd sign up and you could just, send an invitation to a bunch of your friends, and if they actually shopped, you got a credit. So there was, some incentive to do that. So that definitely helped also.
Yeah. So sometimes, talk about the trajectory, because sometimes what happens is, especially as a commerce site, you launch, there'll be a buzz, and then kind of plateaus for a little bit, and you have to get better inventory or do more marketing.
Yeah.
What was that first year or two like as far as the ramp rate up?
It was triple-digit increase year over year. I mean, it was crazy. We did $1,320 the first day because we launched in March. By November, we were doing $1 million a month in sales. So it was pretty fast. What was happening, and miraculously, we were able to keep up with it without the wheels falling off the bus, which is really the biggest challenge, right? So it it was, like I said, that stairway to heaven. More members, more people shopping, more vendors coming to work with us.
And so you talk about 9 months afterwards, you raise your first round of capital, successive rounds after that. In general, what are some of the most important lessons that you learned in the fundraising process you can share with the folks here? Right, there are a lot of people here with us today that are currently actively fundraising for their business. What can you share with them that was obviously the business was working? Yeah. But anything besides that?
Well, I think that's the best piece of advice is go get money when you don't need it. That's the first piece of advice that I would give you, which is what we did. We did not need money. We were actually cash flow positive when we raised, our first round. But it was a decision that we made.
That's pretty amazing from $100,000.
Yeah, it was
fast. In a business like that where you're cash flow
positive. We were scrappy. I mean, we probably could have used a few more people working for us, but at the time, but we really held back, and just kind of worked.
How many people did you have before you raised the first round of capital?
I think when we closed the round, we were 9 or 10 people at that point.
And you were telling me how you were painting your own walls in your office.
We did everything. I mean, I signed every single check, and we had a lot of checks to sign because we started doing business with a lot of manufacturers. And so I did that for the first 2 years. So I'd go to New York on a buying trip, and a FedEx box would follow me with all these checks that I would have. I'd sit in the conference room and I'd sign and split the checks and stuff the envelope and, mail them out. But we've always operated kind of like that anyway. You were we were joking on the way over, like nobody in our company has assistants, like we're assistant free. Like I get emails from people, what's your assistant's email to set up an appointment? I'm like, just email me. I do it, so we've always kind of been scrappy like that anyway. So anyway, I forgot what we were talking about before I got.
No, just the big things you learned in the fundraising process.
Oh yeah, so that I mean, seriously, that is, I think if you can do that, that is the best time, because I don't care who's sitting across the table from you. It's like, it's like a shark in a water with somebody bleeding. Like they know, they just know that you've got that look of desperation. And I mean, fortunately, we have not raised money under those circumstances, but I meet with enough people and I see that look, way too often, and it's not good. So like if there's a way that it makes sense for you when things are going well and you don't need the money, that's the time to go raise capital, I think, because I think you end up for many reasons, it's a much better thing.
Anything particular when you're actually in the pitch meeting, any advice? I mean, you've been in sales your whole life,
yeah.
Right? So what sales advice do you have for folks as they're actually doing the pitching of their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, at the end of the day, I think if you're people that are potentially investing are looking at the individual, the people, I think that's super important to a lot of investors. So, it's how you present yourself, the actual business idea, how well you describe what you're doing. And I think just understanding exactly what it is that you want that money for and what you want to do with it, being pretty clear about that, not just like, oh, we need money and, we're not really quite sure what to do with it. So I think being pretty clear about, exactly what the business model is, where it is now, where it's going, and how you're going to use this money to get there is important.
And so talk about, so what's your role today and what's Allie's role, and then talk about the transition of as the company got big, where a lot of founders have to do, which is to bring in a professional management team to do a lot of the day-to-day running of core operations. So what are the two of you focused on, and what was that transition like of giving up control?
Yeah, I was happy to do that, by the way. But so today I'm the Chief Merchandising Officer, so I oversee all of the merchants in our company, as well as all the creative. And definitely over the last 5 years, where I was the first buyer, I was the one going out and negotiating with all the vendors, bringing the product to the site. Today, my role is much more strategic, and I'm focusing on new initiatives and things that I think we should be doing a year from now. So that's I have an amazing team that reports into me that runs more of the day-to-day business, and I'm still involved, but not really down to the detail. They prefer that I not be.
And what's Allie focused on?
And Allie's focused on, she was involved in, we just launched a new website called Hunter's Alley, which is a peer-to-peer marketplace. So she was very much involved in getting that off the ground. And now that that's off and running, she's...
Peer-to-peer marketplace for which items? Still home furnishing
home
items?
So everything. So I think like eBay meets One King's Lane.
Got it. And are they new items or secondhand items?
Mostly secondhand. So, but could be new. But the majority of the business is focused on what we call contemporary pre-owned product.
So if I bought a dining room table a year ago and now I'm moving and
please sign up, post it, sell it. Yeah, I encourage you and everybody else to do it.
Got it. Are we going to raffle something off here right now? Can we raffle another throw?
I don't know.
Somebody in this room gets this shit. What was it called? Should give the A throw?
No, the Hermes.
What was it?
Hermes.
Hermes.
Yeah.
Hermes.
Yeah, you know Hermes. I know you know Hermes. You grew up in Beverly Hills, for God's sake. You know Hermes.
Yeah, so just wrap myself. Sleep every night in an Hermes throw.
Exactly.
And gold trinkets.
Exactly.
As butlers and buttresses.
Exactly. But anyway, but Allie now today focuses on partnerships. So she is the quintessential, the most amazing networker. So that's what she really loves to do and what she focuses on, like biz dev. So that's where her focus is today.
And so, how was the transition of bringing in a group of people to take over those C-level spots?
It was great. It was exciting. I mean, when we did our Series A, there was a lot of conversation that the first thing we were going to do was go hire a CEO, because you could just feel that where the company was going, and that it really needed somebody that understood how to build a foundation, how to build a team, and to do all that. And my experience was, I think I had run organizations of maybe 25 people at the most. I was not wanting to do this. I wanted to focus on the merchandise, and that's what I felt where I added a lot of value, not running around signing checks and doing all that stuff. So it was actually a really easy decision to do. Finding the right person, was definitely a challenge. But it was. I think we looked at it more as like we were bringing in, a third partner, and that it really was more of a partnership.
How have you made? So you have 3 main offices: Los Angeles,
Yeah.
San Francisco, and New York.
Yeah.
How have you made that structure work so well?
It's definitely challenging. I mean, there's like days that I like to kill myself that like we did it this way. But I was in Los Angeles, Allie was in San Francisco, and the first person we hired was in New York. So we were 3 people working out of our home offices. Like, 1 Kings Lane, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. It sounds good, right? But what happened?
By the way, what was the impetus for the name? Who named the company?
Allie and I named it. Yeah, we wanted it to be an address, and we wanted to feel like it was, that in your mind's eye it would conjure up like, a different thing for everybody, but like a cool home. We wanted to feel like it had some sort of history and tradition to it, but that it was cool and modern. And back 5 years ago, trying to find a name that we could get the URL was challenging. So we did a lot of iterations of a lot of different addresses, and we came up with 1 Kings Lane. And it was actually really funny because Allie's like, I'm going to ask a friend of hers who's been very successful in the internet what he thinks of this. So I'm like, amazing. Like, who gets to do that? So she comes back. She goes, bad news. And I'm like, what? She goes, he thinks it's like the worst name ever that he's ever heard. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's a great name for what we're doing. It's easy to spell. You can understand it. She's like, no, he thinks it's terrible. 3 words. It should be like 4 letters made up, And this was like one of those brand decisions, that we were talking about earlier, where like we were so clear what we wanted to do and who we were speaking to that like it was tough. Here's somebody that's made and been very successful, in this world, saying horrible, but he's a guy, like you didn't know.
And what's funny is there's a whole world now of fashion sites that replicate what you do, right? They come up with basically names of like streets and locations,
right.
For their this is a really popular trend.
Yeah. So I said, so we had a moment of like panic, and then we're like, no, we're going with it. That's it.
Who was the person that said it was a bad name?
I can't say.
Let's tweet it out right now. let's talk shit to him.
I can't, but you'd be impressed. You would be impressed, really, you would. So anyway, but so that
Steve
was
Jobs.
No, that's. No, I wish. No, but it wasn't Steve Jobs. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point was that we were really clear about what we were doing, and so it made it a lot easier to say, no, we're going with this, and it was totally the right thing to do for our brand, So that's how we got our name.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about culture. How would you describe, when you get to companies so large, right, things like the company culture become extra important.
Yeah.
How would you describe your company culture, and how do you foster it, again, in different locations and with so many people?
Oh, so the location thing became interesting because for, I would say, the first year and a half, it was like pretty haphazard. It was, that very much of that, whoever could do it, did it. It didn't matter where they were. There was no structure or organization to what we were doing. And I would say about a year or so into it, we're like, okay, this is crazy. We need to figure out like how this is going to work. So what happened is New York became really the headquarters for all creative and all what I call our branded merchants. So these are people that do about 80% of the product on the site. It's anything that has depth behind it. LA became the office where everything was, I call it one of a kind. So it was all vintage designer products. Everything that is done here, including now Hunter's Alley, is done in our Los Angeles office. And San Francisco became really like the corporate headquarters. So finance, marketing, customer care, all the engineers were there. So that was the structure that we put in place. And it's not easy because we are very much a collaborative business. I mean, what you see on our website every day takes many, many people to make that happen, from the time that the buyer first finds, the product, to getting the product, photographed, to having somebody write copy, to the engineers who make it go live, all that stuff. So it's very collaborative. So doing that amongst 3 cities is challenging. So we do a lot of video conference calling. We use Zoom a lot now. We travel a lot because there's nothing like, being in person. But it definitely comes with its challenges. The flip side of it is, from a merchandising standpoint, it gave us leverage in the 2 best cities for, product, which is New York and Los Angeles. So that's the good part of it.
Yeah. What have been a couple of the absolute best-selling items on the site?
Oh my God, there's so many. Well, we were talking about this before. We have so much product on the site. Every week there's 20,000 different SKUs that come to the website. So. Incredible. But we've had some crazy things. Like somebody bought, speaking of Hermes again, somebody bought a vintage Hermes wallet that cost almost $18,000 on their iPhone one night. And it was hot pink. It wasn't even like a normal, it was hot pink. That was, this is our woman. She loves going out and drinking. Like, it's good. And they actually told me this the other day in marketing. They've been doing some research. She definitely over-indexes on wine. She likes wine and cycling, Soul Cycle. You know who she is, right? You know her. Anyway, so we've had some crazy sales like that. We sold.
What items have sold in the most volume that just fly off the shelf?
There've been so many. I'd have to go back and look. I don't even know. We sell a lot of what, I don't know if you even know, mint julep cups. Like during the Kentucky Derby. But we show and use them in many different ways for flowers. You can drink out of them. They're decorative. You can put stuff in it. So we sell a ton of those. We sell. A lot of furniture. Like, you'd be surprised how much furniture is sold online. Like, do people buy sofas without sitting in them? But that's because of our brand. People trust us. They believe that we're bringing really great product to the site, and that.
And how does the return policy work?
We don't really have a return policy. So most product isn't returnable. There's a few categories that we do take returns on, like rugs and pillows, but. I think if somebody got a sofa and called up and they were really upset with it, we would work with them, because that is a little bit of the problem online. Like, you buy a sofa and you think it fits, but you didn't really quite measure right, and actually an assistant buyer on our furniture team did this, and he couldn't get the sofa in his apartment. So that happens a lot online.
Do you buy a lot of stuff off the site?
Yes.
What kind of stuff do you buy?
I am definitely one of the top shoppers. I buy everything.
What were your last 2 or 3 purchases?
Let's see, my last 2 or 3 purchases. I have to think about this. I just opened a box. What was it? What did I buy? I'm trying to think. I think I just got some new napkins. I bought this necklace on our site because we sell vintage jewelry now. I bought new sheets. Yeah. Oh, and we had an amazing sale. I don't know if there's any fashionistas out here, but there's a woman who's 93 years old. Her name is Iris Apfel. You probably know her. She wears like big black glasses. And we did a sale with her. She decided to start selling some of her things. And I bought this really cool table that she was selling. It's like, came from, I don't know, South America, and it's like red wood, and it looks like a dog. It's kind of crazy. It's like weird, but it's fun. Yeah.
And so, you must get, you personally, but also the company must get hit up by everyone in the world and their mother who wants to sell stuff. It's like, oh, this would be a great item for One's Lane. You should sell it. Now with so much inbound interest, how do you really keep curating just top-notch quality products?
Yeah, I think this, again, it sounds redundant and boring, but it goes back to the brand. We have great brand ambassadors in our merchandising team. You asked about our culture. We have the most amazing team, the most passionate group of people. Like, you can't get in the door unless you're passionate about what we're doing, because you would be like, you'd be found out way too fast. And so they are gatekeepers, and they work by category. So if it's a furniture buyer, she knows what is right for our customer, and she doesn't let the other stuff in. Every once in a while stuff sneaks in. But
so are most of your buyers female?
Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk about where you see the company going in 5 years from today, in 10 years from today. what will One Kings Lane be, and what's your vision for, what that ends up as?
We hope that One Kings Lane will really be the next great lifestyle brand, really. And I think that just means that as we continue to evolve, right now...
What would you compare that to? What would you say today is one of the one or two top lifestyle brands?
I don't think there have been in the home, there haven't been any really new ones that have come around. I'd say like Martha Stewart was kind of the last, really lifestyle brand that was created. There's great brands out there like, Restoration Hardware and people like that, but I don't know that I would call them lifestyle.
And so since you're selling, lots of folks' inventory, do you consider the Restoration Hardwares and Pottery Barns of the world your competitors?
Yeah, totally. I want a piece of their business for sure. Yeah.
And they must be, I know they must be looking at your business with a lot of envy saying, hey, how do we get into this space and build this kind of marketplace?
I think so. It's what we do is really difficult. And there, you think about it, like we're a retail store that every day our windows, our store, our floor changes. That's really hard to do. And particularly brick and mortar, it's impossible. You can't do it, So we, I think that's really part of how we, disrupted the industry is because we change our store every single day. But I think the opportunity in the future is to create a lot more doors into our store so that you can come to the site and when you need white towels or sheets or whatever, and they're there, and the good stuff is there. You don't have to wait for the bedding event to come to shop.
So LA's kind of become the de facto center for these kind of e-commerce tech businesses, right? You have the Shoe Dazzles and Honest. You have new startups like Gotta Be Chic here in the crowd. What other companies do you pay attention to in this commerce space for the female demographic that you say, oh, hey, they're doing something interesting? And things that you watch out for?
I'd like to just, anything new that's going on. I'm trying to think of anything that I've seen that's...
Well, what are some of the big sites you like shopping on?
I am like so all over the place. Like personally, I'm all over the place. It's just like I'm constantly checking out, see, new things, new ways people are showing things, presenting
what
things.
What stuff do you still buy? One of the things that's really interesting to me too is, where do you see the trends start to really fall off in terms of in-store retail? Right? I would say, just let's do a quick poll here, right? How many of us buy more than 20% of our goods online right now? More than 40%?
Probably.
More than 60%? All right, now I have to draw. Who buys more than 80% of your stuff online? All right. These are my developers, by the way.
It's because you don't let them out, right? They're at work all the time.
No, it's because they're ahead of the curve. They know what's coming next, right, Emmanuel? How do you see that intersection between more and more purchasing happening online and what's going to happen to the retail industry? Are people going to keep going to the Pottery Barns and Restoration Hardware?
I don't know. I
get paid the big bucks to ask good questions.
I keep asking that question. Like, what is going to happen to all these stores? There's a lot of stores out there. I do think that there is an opportunity to have showrooms, and there's a lot of talk about showrooming, because I do think people there is something fun still to go in and see,
but no
products.
One's seen the physical product or touching them from One Kings Lane, right?
No. But I think that there's an opportunity if we were to do something like that, and it would be different. I'm not talking about building a store that looks like Crate and Barrel or Restoration Hardware, but there's an opportunity to address, I think, our space, decorating and
so would you do a retail warehouse of your items that people could kind of go in and browse?
I don't think so. I think it would be something different. It would be. I think it needs to be different. And what I was going to say is, I think it would be a space that would be much more experiential, where you could come to and be inspired, and we would help you sort of through that process, because decorating and buying things for your home for whatever reason is one of the hardest things that people.
So this would be like the Disneyland for your demographic. If you're a 35 to 55-year-old woman who drinks wine and cycles, this is your personal Disneyland.
Were you at our meeting today? Yeah, exactly.
You can buy an annual pass.
But you'd also be able to experience some of it, not all of it. Like, there's just too much product, And actually, when I think about it, like I think like there's a part of me that's like,
what does experience of it actually mean? I mean, yeah, you can pick up items, you can sit in them. How do you create an experience? What does that mean?
Well, so you move into a new house and you're like totally freaked out, right? You don't know like what to do. So you come into our place. We're going to help you through, that process. You can sit on our One Kings Lane sofa that we're making. We'll show you a bunch of things online. We'll partner with Benjamin Moore and talk to you about colors. I think maybe more like, the Genius Bar.
Got it.
Right? For home, that type of thing.
Sounds good. So let's just summarize up a couple things. 6 years into the process now.
Yeah, 5.5.
5.5. What are some of the big lessons that you learn? I mean, what would you share to other folks that are at the beginning part of their journey for, in many cases, probably similar businesses to the one that you've been building?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, maybe three things that I always talk about. One is like focus. I think staying focused on what you're doing, what your mission, your vision is. It's so easy to get distracted along the way, and especially if you have success. Then all of a sudden you think, "Wow, we could do this, we could do that, we could do," and all of a sudden you're like all over the place. So, I remember this happened to us a lot. I felt like we had to like kind of slap ourselves and like, no, we're not doing that. We're staying like, we were committed to the home market. We wanted to be, deep and wide in that space. We could have easily added, apparel and a bunch of other stuff, but we're like, nope, that is not who we want to be. We want to be the go-to place for the home. So I'd say focus is one thing. I think the other thing is in this world today, in this ADD world that we live in, like you have to keep everything simple. So if you're in the process of doing things, it's very easy when you're, it's like inside baseball to talk yourself into something being good when it really sucks. Because you're, a group of you talking in a circle and yet nobody really understands it, or you have to explain to them what it is. Like there's something not right with it, and it's probably that it's too complicated and it's not simple enough. Like go back and fix it, because like it's just not going to work today. Like nobody reads, if they don't get it in like 3 seconds, forget about it. It's like not going to happen. And probably two other things that I would say would be fail fast. So if you try something and it doesn't work, like forget about it, like move on, quickly. Like don't hang on to something because you think it's, good when it's not. And people, at the end of the day, I don't think we could have possibly ever done what we did if we didn't hire like the greatest people, because they are, I think about in the beginning, everybody that we hired, I'm not sure that if they came with a resume that we would have necessarily hired them, but due to whatever circumstances, they were super smart, they were aggressive, they were so passionate about what we were doing that they just made whatever they had to do happen. And that, at the end of the day, I think made a huge difference.
Got it. I think it's clear to all of us, Susan, that One Kings Lane is an absolutely amazing service, and I think you've, for those of the folks here that hadn't used the service before, I think you've won over a lot of new customers and converts, and it's clear to see, when someone like you and everything you bring to the table and how you break the mold in so many categories and how passionate you are and dedicated to great products, why it's been such a good company. And I just wanted to thank you, and everyone here wants to thank you for coming here tonight and sharing your story.